Flesh Legion marches. A pestilent parade. Gaze upon the dominion of life and decay. A fertile universe pregnant with flames. The time for virulent rebirth is upon you. Rejoice in proliferation. Share the gifts of Nurgle.
The time for virulent rebirth is upon you. Rejoice in proliferation and join me as we enter the world of Nurgle. Not long to wait now for actual gameplay, but we're not quite there yet, so in the meantime, I don't really have to do a breakdown of what exactly these units are because we've kinda already done that. The plagues of the Rotfather's unit roster have already been spread. You'll know what to expect. Instead, we're going to talk the next big controversy that shall shake this community down to its very core, and just my general thoughts and impressions on the aesthetics and visual design of this faction. Plague Toads, Pox Riders, Heralds, Plague Drones, Beasts of Nurgle, Great Unclean Ones, and Kugath Plaguefather all appear in this realm of rot, and it's plague, 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 all the way down. Yet somehow the lowliest of creatures are the ones that catch my eye the most in this trailer, and it's Nurglings. They're the MVPs here, straight up. And apparently, it's because Swarm units have new tech with simplified skeletons that allow them to form Voltron and fight as bigger entities, rolling into battle, turning into big, brutish hulks, and generally having the time of their lives. From what I understand, these wild animations aren't just artistic license for the trailer, it's the kind of stuff they'll bust out in battle too, so if you ever wanted to see little bundles of oozing goo turn into Mighty Morphin Megazord, well, I guess now's your chance. They look awesome, and I think we should all aspire to be a little bit more like these Nurglings, except for the whole, spreading more disease part. We've had enough of that over the last 2 years, I think, but they're having a great time, and that's the important thing. First great look at my favorite Nurgle unit, the Plague Drones, and they look exquisite. Really appreciate the attention to detail here when it comes to their animations, that they move like real insects or hummingbirds would, hovering in place with wings beating a million times a minute and then rapidly shifting to a new location laterally. You can see it a few times throughout the trailer, but it's the kind of detail where they could have just been made to fly like every other flying creature, but the effect is so much more impactful and meaningful when they emulate the animal they're designed after, and they do so here. They're an extremely important element of this roster overall, one of the few reliable ways you have to control the aerial fight, to flank, to hammer an anvil, to run down routing troops, and cycle charge in general, and they perform all those roles according to Nurgle's principal design philosophies of resilience in the face of adversity and spreading plague while they do it. Same can be said of the Plague Toads, which move and behave exactly how you'd expect. When they jump in, you see those legs flare out like a regular frog or a toad would, and I'm really happy they made it in. It's an awesome model for a unit that could have easily dropped a year or two down the line for extra money, and few people would have been upset, but I think they're going to add a lot here, and the more variety we have in terms of monstrous cavalry options, the happier your boy's going to be. But speaking about being upsetty spaghetti, the next big Warhammer 3 controversy is here. Earth-shattering in its enormity. No, it's not really a big deal, but it's still a discussion worth having so people can share how they feel about it, and we can get a bit of a poll going in the comments section down below. I think a decent chunk of people rightfully think that intestines and guts play a fairly noticeable role in the design for Nurgle units. A lot of the art and models and lore descriptions for characters and armies describes ropes of intestines fit to bursting out of distended bellies, and when you look at Nurgle Chaos Lords and Great Unclean Ones and all their most preeminent powerful creatures, it's a feature you see quite often. Intestines coming out of their stomach. Basically, the more power you're imbued with by Papa Plague, the more swollen your frame becomes, and eventually you just kind of burst open, much to the dismay of the people who have to face you in battle, because unlike a normal warrior, it's not a big deal if a Nurgle demon or Nurgle champion has his stomach split open. But the current models have completely forgone this element, in favor of a stomach mouth design, which some people seem to think is new or some kind of creative assembly invention, and let me assure you, it is not. Stomach mouths have been a Nurgle thing since early editions, and you can see them in official artwork and models throughout the decades. Here are a few examples from more modern times, and like we've discussed, Age of Sigmar is lending some ideas to the Warhammer 3 development process. But the fact that they've completely taken over the design of Warhammer 3's Nurgle is apparently bothering some people, which, okay, fair enough. I think we're all on board with the idea that more model variety is better. So if you ask me the question, do I want to see more maggots and intestines to better get the point of Nurgle across, to have that juxtaposed with these wild, abominable stomach mouths? Sure, absolutely. Those are noticeable pillars of his disease aesthetic in tons of official sources, so I'll never begrudge anyone for desiring that. Intestines for the Intestines God are fun for the whole family. But do I think the mouths have replaced innards because of the PEGI or ESRB rating agencies, or because CA is trying to pander to China? No, not really. Like, sorry, but the gaping, rotten, festering, boobos-encrusted floppy mouth with corroded teeth inserted in a massive, ragged, open wound, jiggling around, vomiting corrosive bile across the battlefield, isn't super PG to begin with. There's literally a Texas Chainsaw Massacre freak with dismembered hands lugging around a cauldron full of slaughtered meat and gallons of blood. Wulfric has a flayed, decapitated head on his shield. We already have Morngulls and bloated corpses and hell pit abominations and all manner of absolutely disgusting models in the game already that aren't tied to the blood and gore DLC in any way. Zombie dragons, terrorgeists, hellsteeds, and others already have innards and strings of muscle exposed, so it feels more like CA just wanted to keep a more uniform design here that they enjoyed, and they just happened to like the mouse style more. Keeping it PEGI 16 or whatever may have had something to do with it. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on what exactly is allowed in video games before it gets kicked up to 18 or mature, but if you can create a disgusting, swollen, diseased, monstrous faction that looks like this and still keep the rating you want, that seems like a pretty logical way to handle it. They're still absolutely abominably disgusting, and it still looks a hell of a lot like Nurgle to me. Like someone on TW forums today said that the gaping stomach maws have nothing to do with disease, rot, and decay, which is a perspective I really don't get. Massive, open, festering wounds with rotten teeth, surrounded by necrotic, discolored flesh, buboes, and pustules has nothing to do with Nurgle's core design features? Yeah, I would very much disagree with that point of view, and I'd say the gaping stomach wounds with teeth encapsulate those elements quite well, and that's why you've seen them in official artwork and models for a very long time. Both have been a big part of Nurgle for a long time. So if you say, I'd like to see more guts, I think intestines are a cool part of Nurgle and feature prominently in many of his models, I agree with you. They are neat, and I like them, and they've been around for decades, so I'd love to see them in the game. But I don't think that these gorgeous models and animations are particularly damaged either by not including them. Because when I look at a massive, ragged, festering wound, gibbering and howling and barfing acid everywhere, I think, hey, that looks like Nurgle to me, and that's ultimately the most important thing. Do these creatures evoke the imagery, ideas, philosophy, and playstyle of the Plague God in lore and in game? For me, the answer is an unequivocal yes, and I am super looking forward to showing you gameplay for them soon.